All right, Susan, on Sunday, the FAA proposed that it would allow drones weighing up to 55 pounds to fly within sight of their remote pilots. The drones must weigh no more than those 55 pounds and fly no higher than 500 feet altitude. Robert Mark, who's a commercial pilot, thinks that this is still a threat to the airspace, and Andrea James of Dougherty Co believes that more good than bad will come of this. Welcome to both of you. Robert, let me start by asking you what you would like to see ideally with respect to the regulation of who, how high, how close to airports drones can fly.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with the regulation in terms of the data. Stay away from airports, don't fly above 500 feet. But how do we enforce that? I mean, it's kind of like the laser thing, I mean, no one ever thought that people would be stupid enough to start pointing green lasers at airplanes. But there are people out there. How do we stop that? How do we prevent a problem before it occurs?
All right, well, why don't you jump in here, Andrea, and give your response to that?
Well, it's interesting because you have Robert saying, the rules aren't strict enough, and then there's companies like Amazon saying the rules are too strict. And so it seems like the FAA is trying to go right down the middle with what they came out with. I guess I identified 5 industries that I thought might benefit from this rule. Police and fire, so law enforcement would be one. Agriculture would be another. Oil and gas. Real estate and insurance. I think those 5 industries are the ones that are going to be somewhat satisfied with the rule.
But here, what we're talking about, Robert, aren't we? And the company, we're thinking that Amazon is most materially affected here, even though they haven't got really drones doing the business. Those would not be flying within sight of their operators. I mean, if you're using a drone as a package delivery device, it's way out of sight of the operator.
Well, that's true. And, just to be fair, I mean, I completely agree with the uses that Andrea mentioned. I mean, these things are going to be marvelous. They really will. They'll allow us to be in places where we can't risk the life of a pilot. All I'm saying is that as a commercial pilot, people who are in airplanes are actually going to be in danger if the FAA does not figure out a way to separate drones of 55 pounds and less from manned aircraft. And you should see what happens to an airplane if it gets hit by a 14-pound Canada Goose. It's not pretty. And right now, that hasn't been figured out yet.
Andrea, what about licensing the operators of these things? And I assume, I mean, obviously, if somebody's a fire or police, a first responder, those are, that's one kind of use, as opposed to the amateur user of these things.
Well, that's why I think the FAA is separating out the commercial market. And I'm kind of with Robert. I don't worry so much about the commercial users because, say, the farmer or the real estate agent or somebody who has to have a pilot's license to fly it and keep it within sight. The hobbyist market, which is actually kind of not what we're talking about here, but the hobbyist market, just the average Joe who can go out and buy one of these, that seems a little bit more lawless. It's harder to control. And that's where the FAA, I think, is going to have to still come out and figure out some way to protect the national airspace.
All right, folks. Thank you very much, Robert. Andrea, appreciate your being with us today. Susan?
All right, let's check in on the markets because we do have another milestone for the S&P crossing through 2,100 for the very first time. So those dips looking pretty